trafficking, and it sounds somehow in their ears. But then we have an expert today who is going to be talking to us about that. Well, we are looking at something very important, and like I said, trafficking in persons. United Nations have called for an end to criminal exploitation, because most times you hear that people who have been trafficked are being deceived into being trafficked, as the case may be, even though some persons may be of the school of thought that some of them consent to it. But that's not the case. Is it legal? That's what we are talking about. And I have an expert joining me on the conversation this morning. He is the head of Media Strategic Communication, International Human Rights Commission, that is IHRC, the president of Fidelis. It's good to have you join us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning, my viewers.
Well, let's look at trafficking in persons. Well, today is a big day. The celebration is on. And of course, let's look at it. When we talk about trafficking, what is trafficking to get started with?
Well, good morning, my viewers. It's a great honor and privilege to speak today on the pressing issue that continues to undermine human dignity, which is a human trafficking. You know, human trafficking is very wide. However, in a nutshell, human trafficking is the trade of people for the purpose of exploitation. I would like to bring out just three key elements in defining human trafficking. What we call the acts, the means, and the purpose. For example, I would say human trafficking by acts, they uses transportation, transporting, recruiting, harboring. By means of coercion, abuse of power, and deceit, for the purpose of exploitation, to exploit human. So that is the full nutshell of what human trafficking stands. Thank you.
All right. Why in recent times, before now, we don't have cases of human trafficking like it is right now? You can attest to that fact.
Of course.
Before now, if you hear it say, hey, somebody carry people out of this country to go and do whatever for their own gain and all of that, it was a serious crime.
Of course.
But now it's common. How did we get here?
The reason is because human trafficking is not random. It's a deliberate, strategic, and well-organized crime. It's the third international crime industry, third largest international crime industry after drugs and arms trafficking. Human trafficking is the third largest. According to report, they said it generates over 150 billion annually.
Billion?
Yes, $1 billion annually. Now, it has become rampant because for the purpose of greed, unsatisfactory ends of people wants, have pushed them into utilizing every means to exploit the vulnerable population. And they do this by recruiting people, either coercing them, promising them jobs, promising them education, promising them safety, and at the end they are trapped either into forced labor or sexual exploitation. So the reason for the rampart of human trafficking is because of the cartel, the rings. The organizing is becoming more escalating. And unfortunately, I will tell you that the law enforcement agents, to say, their approach have been on rescuing victims instead of de-escalating or dismantling the cartels, the ring. You understand? So the prosecution of human traffickers compared to the crime on its own, you see that the crime is higher than the persecution. So something is wrong, and that is why it is called organized crime.
All right. This is very serious, yeah, because the law enforcement agents
Yes.
are supposed to, number one, make sure it didn't happen.
Of course.
Because I always say it is better to prevent, all right, than putting on a mechanism that will prevent it instead of doing control measures. Now talking about law enforcement agents not dismantling these cartels.
Yes, sir.
Are you sure these cartels are known?
The cartels are not far from you and I. I'm going to give a very good exposure.
But I'm not a cartel. When you say you and I, so I'm not a cartel.
Of course, we are not the cartels.
But you said they are not far from us.
Yes, I'm going to make example.
Okay.
There is what we call adoption of children. There is an illegal adoption of children going on nearly in every state ministries under Ministry of Women Affairs. I'm not trying to talk about the organized human trafficking outside government. U.S. Department of State June 2024 report warned prospective adoptees against intercountry adoption from Nigeria because of the illegal adoption processes. That is human trafficking in disguise. When you go to some of these states departments in charge of children adoption records, you will see that there is poor records, illegal processes of adoption, and the purpose is to transfer these children for exploitation. So that was why I said they are not far, and they also operate through orphanage homes. To say some orphanage homes are now recruiting people in the name of adopting children, but they sell these children for the purpose of forced labor, to use them for domestic work, farm work, factory jobs, then also sexual exploitation, begging and ritual exploitation. So these things happen on the streets. It has even now become more modernized through the use of orphanage homes. So that was why I said it is not far. And unfortunately, if you go and ask about adoption record register of adoptive children in different states, you are going to find different reports. Some don't even have.
So as it is right now, how would you adopt a child without the proper record? What if the owner come looking for the children? Now that's, by the way, let's get back. Something caught my attention while you were speaking.
Yeah.
And that is the issue of the Ministry of Women Affairs.
Yes.
All right. Now you said in most of the states, in some states, there is this organized trafficking that happens under the nose of the Ministry of Women Affairs. Have their attention been drawn to these issues? Are you, because they need to work hand in hand, Ministry of Women Affairs, because oftentimes we hear cases of girls being trafficked to some countries for sexual exploitation, domestic work, and all of that. What has the attention of the Ministry of Women Affairs drawn to this, or we want to say they are aware and they just keep quiet?
Now, when I talked about the United States Department of State report 2024 about inter-country adoption of children from Nigeria, according to their report, they emphasized meeting with different stakeholders. And from the report from these stakeholders, they came up with their opinion that something is wrong with the adoption processes. I have seen report from Punch, Sahara reporters, particularly in a state in Nigeria, where a whistleblower alleged of illegal adoption of children as human trafficking in disguise. Meanwhile, this whistleblower is also facing legal persecution from the states. Why? Because these are organized people who are organizing these things to enrich themselves. Sorry to say. It's an alleged anyway. Because you asked about if these ministries are aware.
Yeah.
Now, this is a case of someone blowing up, calling the attention of the public that this is what is going on. What has happened? Rather, he is being persecuted by the same state.
The person who blew the whistle.
I'm telling you, no protection. So
That's to say, you're tempting me to find out this state, to call the name of this state, but then since you don't want to call it, let's just leave it there. Don't you think that's an indication that the hand of the Ministry of Women Affairs or whoever that is trying to prosecute or go against this whistleblower have hand in it and deserve to be arrested? So why are they walking free on the streets?
Of course, it has raised a lot of concerns. The same whistleblower has approached the ECOWAS court. The same whistleblower have written to the Chief Justice of Nigeria. I'm speaking by facts. But so far, so said, he has not attained any legal results in trying to expose illegal adoption. That U.S. Department of State also has reaffirmed that the adoption processes in Nigeria is challenging. Now, when these things happen, for example, when you meet children on the street in some states, take them to the police station. As a common layman, what happened? From station, they go straight to, they call the Ministry of Women Affairs in some places. And the Women Affairs, maybe they direct them to the next children home, that which is the right word, instead of orphanage home, according to the Child Right Act. The Child Right Act recognizes the word children home instead of orphanage home, because the children in the orphanage home, not all of them are orphan. So the right word is children home. Now, these children, they pass through this process going to children's home without the children court. You understand? Now, without court processes, or even not a competent court that has the legal jurisdiction to handle children matter. And if you go back and question, how can the state exist? They don't have record of adopted children's creation. It means that these children don't, whoever that has adopted them cannot be held accountable. These children, when they grow up, they don't even know their background or history. Something is wrong.
But then, are you sure the children homes don't have the record of people who come there to do the adoption? Or you're saying that the process is not complete? Maybe if there is a documentation that needs to be done, it should be done from the children home down to the Ministry of Women Affairs. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Now, birth certificates from the National Population Commission in Nigeria, in most cases, people forge birth certificates. How can a birth certificate be checked on database that this person bearing the name on this document rightfully belongs, this document rightfully belongs to this person? Accordingly, before administrating a child to a children home, the birth certificate, the birth record, and the rest, all those things are supposed to be rightly documented.
But a lot of children in Nigeria, some children in Nigeria don't have birth certificate. They don't have birth record.
Of course. We have seen a case where a human rights activist challenged a parent in the court of their legal ownership of their own children, of their own child, because of the lack of birth certificates. Parents need to be aware that the moment you give birth to your child, that child is entitled to a birth certificate, not from the hospital, but from the National Population Commission. That is the only legal and
I think so much is happening here, viewers. I want to ask a question in your favor now, all of you back at home there. I know you will love this question that I want to ask. You said from the National Population Commission.
Yes,
that is the recognized birth certificate. What of the one issued in hospital after giving birth to a child?
For example, if you go to immigration to obtain your international passport, you will definitely know that the birth certificate issued to you in the hospital is not recognized. I think that's answered the question.
So why is the hospital proudly giving that certificate? I'm using the word proudly.
That is why also in the government hospitals, they have a specific office issuing birth certificates.
Okay, a piece of advice now. People who give birth at private hospitals and maybe primary health care and something like that, how would they go about getting the birth certificate for their kids?
Yeah, very simple, sir. Like some places that I've visited, in the general hospital or the government hospital, they have specific days, either Monday to Thursday or Monday to Wednesday, where the officer, the NPC officer, comes to the hospital to issue birth certificates to children. So it is left for parents who give birth to children at private hospitals to identify a government hospital or NPC office to obtain a birth certificate for their children.
All right. Okay. Let's get back to trafficking. As a matter of fact, today is World Day against trafficking of persons, trafficking in persons. World Day, all right, against trafficking in persons. This is 30th July. It's been celebrated. This day comes up every 30th day of July every year, and today is one. And right here we have an expert speaking to us about trafficking in persons, and of course what's the United Nations is saying about it, because as a matter of fact, it has eaten deep into the fabric of the society. Number one, it has not portrayed Nigeria in a good light at the international level. I'm coming to you now because of course you are the head of media and strategic communication International Human Rights Commission. Now, how has this trafficking in person? Because oftentimes I've read, just like a few days ago, those ones I don't know what to call it, whether they were trafficked or whatever it is. Those in Central African Republic crying to be rescued, that they went there, they took them there to work and were abandoned and all of that. That the federal government did come, everyone is trying to bring them back home. Now that's, by the way, that's just one. Trafficking in persons, it has happened severally. Nigerian the authorities have gone to evacuate people that were trafficked severally. We've had situations like that. NAPTIP have done it. I know your office also is at the middle too. Now, how does this portray Nigeria as a country internationally?
Well, human trafficking, as the reason why we are here today, cuts across nations. It cuts across international borders. And it might interest you to know that while Nigeria is facing human trafficking, there are Western countries who are more into human trafficking
than Nigeria.
Because it is a network. And unfortunately, I am tempted to say that governments of the world is not fighting human trafficking.
So why are they quiet? Are they generating any form of revenue from it?
Because
Why are they quiet?
if they are fighting human trafficking, how many traffickers have, either through the courts or through any processes, has been prosecuted for how many times across the world? Checking histories or database. And unfortunately, human trafficking gives room for other crimes. Do you know there are some pornographers, people who engage in drug smuggling were trafficked. Some of these drug dealers, they won't allow their children to go into those businesses. They won't even employ people to go into those businesses. They traffic people, engage them, force them into smuggling drugs. So, and these are not done by poor men. Human trafficking, drug trafficking, arm trafficking, they are not done by poor people. So why this thing is still escalating, I think everything goes back to the government and the judicial system. The weak system, the weak judiciary system that have not held traffickers responsible is the reason why this thing is still escalating. Rather, whistleblowers are bent to keep quiet so that they don't expose people behind the scene.
All right, this is interesting. This is interesting. So whose responsibility it is now? Because if the government, we have civil society organizations.
Of course.
We have International Human Rights Commission.
Of course.
We have NAPTI and a whole lot of other bodies who are ensuring that this does not continue, because this affects, when you got started, there is a way this situation affects families.
Of course.
Now, whose responsibility is it to fight this trafficking? If you say the government of the world, not just Nigeria,
of course,
because it was celebrating World Day against trafficking in persons. Now, in the whole world, who do you think should pick up, because it has to be started by somebody or an organization and others will follow? You know how it happens.
Yes.
So whose responsibility is it to start fighting against this trafficking in persons?
Yes, I will enumerate four.
Okay.
4 persons or body, and it begins with the government. How and how we internalize it to Nigeria. If we are to end human trafficking, the government needs to strengthen anti-trafficking policies.
Okay.
Ensure the full enforcement of Trafficking in Person Prohibition, Enforcement and Administration Acts.
Okay.
They should also strengthen weak system. It is the weak system which talks about unemployment, lack of education, and poor record keeping in adoption agencies. Those are all weak systems. They should strengthen weak systems. They should also fund NAPTIP and train them. I think they have NAPTIP, I can vouch, they have a lot of training, both from international organizations, international partners, but government need to fund them. Then 2, international cooperation. The government of Nigeria, which I know also they are also doing, they should strengthen international cooperation on intelligence gathering, intelligence oversight on borders control. Then second to the last, organizations and faith-based organizations. For example, the International Human Rights Commission in Nigeria. We partner with enforcement agencies, stakeholders, to protect human rights, to defend human rights. Also, I came in contact with one faith-based organization of recently, Solution Social Initiative, domiciled in Port Harcourt. And you know, Delta, Rivers, Benue, they have long indicators of hotspots of human trafficking in Nigeria.
Edo, Rivers, and Benue.
Edo, Delta, Rivers, Benue.
Edo, Delta, Rivers, Benue.
Yes.
Edo, Delta, Rivers, Benue.
You know,
Take notes, everyone. Take notes.
Now-
and watch out.
now this faith-based organization in Rivers State is owned by a church. My organization, International Human Rights Commission, we are looking at extending partnership and collaboration, because you know why? Human anti-trafficking education hub need to be established in churches, in mosques, in schools.
All right. Well, our time is not on
And
us.
then last, let me just add, the public participation. If you see something, say something.
Blow whistle.
Blow whistle.
All right, blow the whistle. If you see something, say something. And of course, parents also need to be educated too, because some persons look at it as a way of making money.
Of course.
Especially in countries of the world where they are being ravaged by poverty. So many thanks on Akoma for joining us on the program today.
Thank you very much.